I delight in the excitement and nervousness and hope and faith and all that's in this room at this moment. This is no question the most exciting time of the year when we get to greet all of you, both parents who are going to become part of the Taft family and students. And it's for me, having done this a while, this is a really, really special day, and I'm so excited to do this. We will start, as we always do, though, with a prayer of welcome from the school chaplain, Bob Ganong. Bob?
Welcome. Please join me for a moment of prayer. Let us pray together. Eternal and gracious God, bless all of us here at the Taft School as we begin our 122nd year. We're gathered here in Bingham Hall, our sacred space, to begin our sojourn together. We're all blessed by the unique qualities, gifts, talents, and graces that each new and returning student brings to the school. Guide us as we work together over the coming year to knit together a close and caring community out of our incredibly rich diversity. Grant that those who teach and those who learn may draw inspiration from you. Pour into their hearts the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and spiritual strength, the spirit of knowledge and imagination, the spirit of creativity and love. Remind each student here that they are among the privileged few around the world that have this kind of educational opportunity at their fingertips. Help them to take full advantage of their valuable time at Taft to educate their minds and hearts so that they may in time become mindful and empowered adults who find ways to serve the needs of our global world with skill, competency, and compassion. And oh God, calm the worries of parents as they leave today. Remind them of something they already know, that their children are bright, responsible, and highly motivated students who will cross this new threshold in their lives with grace and confidence and embrace this remarkable school community as it surely will embrace them. Guide all of us into a prosperous learning experience as we begin the 2011-2012 academic year at Taft. Bless us and keep us all. In your holy name, O God of many names, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Bob. And, I'm struck by our location here, that we are gathered in this space that's a very, Bob, your word was a sacred space. And normally I greet families outside in the quad in Centennial, in front of the Centennial dormitory. And that to us has a special meaning because it's there that we graduate. But I'm glad we're here as well because this is one of the most important places on the campus. And I say just as a brief editorial, this is where we gather 4 days a week. And part of what marks Taft is community. And it's not a coincidence that this place is anchored at two ends, that this campus is anchored at two ends of a main hall with gathering places. This auditorium and then the dining hall where we gather and break bread on a daily basis. So what we're doing here today should not surprise you. And parents, you're getting a little bit of a sense of what happens for your sons and daughters when they're here. Now, I want to welcome you, and it's a great honor. And as I said, with a great sense of excitement that I see you here. I want to share some thoughts about what it means to be at a school like this and how we undertake something together, all of us. And we don't know quite where it's going to end up, but we believe there are some conditions that we must have, and these conditions will guide us. And then I'll make some remarks, give you some advice, both to you as new students and as parents. But I would begin by saying that what we do here is an experiment. And that may not make you feel better as parents. You may say, wait, you're supposed to know what you're doing. This isn't an experiment, but it is an experiment, of course. And there's something noble, I think, and beautiful in that word, and something hopeful. We don't know exactly what the outcome's going to be, and you don't, right? And that's thrilling and exciting and nervous. But we're going to try an experiment together, and it's going to be a 1-year one for some of you and a 4-year one for others. And we're going to know the results, and we're going to know them on graduation day. Now think of what the word means. Of course, experiment comes from a Latin and Greek roots meaning to try. And I think our science department chair, Mr. Lehner, would say, yeah, I'll tell you what an experiment is. It's when you test a hypothesis under controlled circumstances. You want to test the validity of a hypothesis. And you create circumstances, you control them, and then you see what the outcome is. And I might suggest that there's a hypothesis at work at Taft, and it runs something like this. Is it possible to bring 700 or so diverse students and faculty together and somehow create conditions where you would end up with a learning community that develops lifelong learners, thoughtful citizens, and caring people who would be committed to service? Right? That's our hypothesis. Is it possible to do that? And I would say that we have conducted this experiment for 121 years, and we've succeeded even as we know we are in a dynamic world, and even as we know this school must and continually does change. There are some circumstances, think of them as lab conditions, that are fixed, that we don't negotiate, and that do not change. And there are things that you've heard me speak about perhaps when you came back for second visits, or if you know someone or have had a sibling at the school. We care about having a deeply committed faculty, a campus that brings us together, a deep and challenging program inside the classroom and without, a diverse and talented student body, and then a fixed and clear mission. Those are the conditions that have not changed since Horace Taft founded the school. There are some others that are more subtle, and they may be more difficult to measure, they may be harder to calibrate, but they're no less important. And they have to do with, you might almost think of this as the temperature, if you will, in this experiment. They're the figurative values here that you see etched in stone and etched in glass. They have to do with things like, we demand that students treat each other with respect. We expect complete honesty and integrity from students. We believe that students must treat each other with kindness, and we hope that they will be committed to service. Those are the kinds of things that we think are critical for this experiment. You may have chosen this school, indeed, because of the understanding of what this experiment was, and you wanted to be part of it. Remember that when Taft founded this school in 1890, he had precious little training. He had been a tutor for 2 years. And if someone had said, well, after 2 years, why don't you start a school? You would have said, you're crazy. He had to borrow money. He hadn't had much experience in education. The school was started in a modest house with 17 students. You want to talk about an experiment. He couldn't pay his faculty the first year. The whole school could fit into one room with chairs to spare. But there was a genius, I think, in the vision. And he understood that he was trying to do something. And he understood that if I have the right conditions, we could maybe be a school that would nurture the mind and the body and the heart and the soul. And we could do this in an extraordinary fashion. That's what he set out to do, and that's what we will do again this year. And it's a privilege. And it's an honor to stand here and say, welcome into that school. Welcome into this experiment. I cannot tell you the excitement I feel as we begin it. Now, I would offer some advice to the students here. And how much you remember, I don't know, if I see you in the halls, I'm going to quiz you. A few things, and they're very simple, really clear, and I think that they are absolutely valid. First one is this, try really hard, okay? Very simple. Try hard. I hope that this place will be tough for you. You didn't come to Taft because you were looking for an easy school. And recognize that hard work matters so much at a place like this. I've been here for a long time. I've seen a lot of students who appeared to have modest abilities who did very well. The data is clear. Anecdotal evidence is clear. Perseverance and grit matter more than ability. So start off with a simple thing tomorrow when you go to classes. Simply try hard. Second piece of advice I shared with a number of you in line. Try new things. It would be a waste to come to Taft and not to have that spirit of trying things that you've never done before. Go out for teams, try out for plays, join clubs, take on activities you've never done. If you're a day student, spend a Saturday night in the dormitory. Do the kind of things and take advantage of this kind of buffet of opportunities that Taft offers. You don't want to graduate from Taft saying, you know what, I really wish I had done something else. So second piece of advice, try new things. Third one is this, and it's hard not to do this, connect with adults, right? Reach out to adults. Some of you may recall at Second Visits Day I said, let me be clear, if your son or daughter wants to hide from teachers, this is not going to be a good school. That cannot happen here. And in that way, we're different than a lot of schools. Our teachers don't go home at 2:20. They wake up in the dormitories with you. They teach you in the class. They coach you. They train you. They give you rehearsals. They will do and be active in their lives everywhere. In fact, one student, I saw a returning student today, and we were having this conversation with his old boy right there, and he said, "Yeah, Mr. Mack, it's like the teachers, they don't really have a life, do they?" I said, "Well, thank you." But there's some truth to that. We don't have a life, or more appropriately, this is our life. I mean, the people behind me and the people in the back of the room, this is what we chose to do. We don't want to go home. This is home. We want and expect that you will come to our apartment because you need help on that paper. We expect that after class you're going to drop by the office because you need extra help. We assume that part of the job is after that really devastating loss, we're going to put our arm around you and talk to you after the game. So connect with adults. Fourth piece of advice, be open to ideas. Be open to people. You have joined a school of the most incredible richness of diversity of experience and background. Consider that. Start with the fact that there's students from 30 countries on the school, but that's just the beginning. Do not, and I mean this to all you students, do not spend your career sitting at the table with the same students who are ones that you know before or who are like you. Absolutely push yourself to take advantage of the whole tapestry of human experience here. Get outside of your comfort zone. And then the final one is this. Parents would echo this. Here's a really simple piece of advice. Be nice. Just be nice. Be nice to the people around you. Be nice to your roommate. Reach out to that student who seems lost. Open the door for someone. Help pick up the books when someone dropped their books. Treat all the staff with great respect. Be nice. It's a value that's so simple and it's so uncomplicated. And by the way, it's an endless supply. I would just leave you with that. Just simply be nice to others. Now, as for you parents, if it's hard for students to remember, I can only imagine you. Well, I can imagine you. I was you a year ago. It's a day of such extraordinary emotion, isn't it? I mean, such mixed feelings of excitement and terror and sadness and joy. And I don't know if I'm qualified to offer counsel. I really, who am I to tell you what to feel today? And none of us know what tomorrow will bring. I would say, I'd come back to that metaphor, experiments can have controlled conditions but not guaranteed outcomes, right? And that's what we're all feeling when our kids start off in school. And we have to embrace that fact that you have no idea where this will turn out. There's something wonderfully unpredictable about what's about to begin. I will give, that said, I can't resist, I'll give you a few pieces of advice that I think that have proven helpful in the past. This is one that I know is the truth. Expect some setbacks. I've never known a Taft student who didn't have some kind of setback in their years here. If the school's doing what I hope it will be creating a set of challenges that will mean there will be some tough moments for your son or daughter. Those are healthy. They're what you are looking for. In the long run, they're how students grow up. It's normal, and my experience is that teenagers are very, very good at picking themselves up and moving on again. So expect that. Expect some setback. Second, and this is one that my wife and I wrestle with, as all parents do. Aren't we as parents, we always are, we want to solve the problems, don't we? We see our son or daughter having a problem, and we want to, it's a temptation to solve it. And we know that urge all the more because we're so easily connected. The problem is given to us almost immediately, right? You've got that text, come pick me up. Right? I mean, secretly, I wish we could shut the internet down for 10 days, first 10 days of school. We could destroy the cell phones because our children drop their problems on our lap, and our instinct is that we need to solve them. And my counsel would be this: witness the problem, but don't solve it. Witness it. Let your son or daughter wrestle with it. Let them try to figure it out. Let them see who at Taft they can work with. Third, this. And some of you have remarked on this, and I'm glad that this has come through. The faculty here are inspiringly and incredibly committed. Trust them to know your children. They will be involved in the lives of your kids in ways that I can barely describe, and it will happen at all hours on the campus. And it will happen in particular when things are hardest. Now, let me be clear. This faculty is consciously trying to push your son or daughter up onto that high wire of achievement. They are going to push that swing just at the edge of reach and then ask that they take flight and grab it. And then we do something else, and you know where I'm going with this. we'll put a safety net under there. And we'll catch them when they fall, and we're going to congratulate them for trying, and then we're going to say, now get back up there and do it again. So the faculty will be there in a way, in particular when things are difficult, and I want you to trust them. And then I'd say finally, try to allow your children, well, we all know this, try to allow your child's life to unfold here in unpredictable ways. I think that's where the joy lies. When your son or daughter graduates, their career may look nothing like what you expected here. And that's exciting. Let your child just find the light and seek it where they see it. Every year I give this image. I forgot whoever first shared it with me some 20 years ago. But it is as if with our children we were given a packet of seeds with no label on it, right? And all we can do is plant it and then step back and offer the light and the moisture and then marvel at what grows. And obviously there are those thorny moments, but that's all we can do. And that's what's going to happen at Taft to some extent. So you've entered a school, you've now become part of a school that will know your child well. To be fair and clear, we will not call you or contact you with every setback. That wouldn't be good for your son or daughter, and certainly not for you. You're not going to get to know everything that happens every day. That wouldn't be healthy either. But don't make no mistake. You're leaving your child in the hands of a group of faculty, and this is whether you are sending us an 18-year-old postgraduate or a lower mid at 14. We are going to deeply honor the trust that you've put in us, that you've given us, something that you value more than life itself. Now let's come back and close with that experiment idea. I told you how Jim Lehner would describe it, probing a hypothesis, the validity of a hypothesis under controlled conditions. I'm an English teacher, and the English department would go somewhere else. And I think they might go to an author like Henry David Thoreau, who of course wrote Walden, his 2-year account of living in a cabin near Walden Pond in Massachusetts. And if you do a word search of that book, and it's one of my favorite books, one of his most common words is experiment. And he used that word often, partly because he was a naturalist by training, but also because I think it speaks of the way in which he thought that what he was doing had no predicted outcomes. There was something glorious about this. There was something unknown. It was something that had never been tried before. And so that word comes up over and over again. And in one of his most beautiful sentences, and those of you who know the book will recognize the line, he wrote this. He wrote in concluding, after living there for 2 years, he said, "I learned this by my experiment. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." Now, the English teacher in me notes the language there. I pay attention to the word choice. He used the word advance, and for all of you students, I think what he was saying is, it means that you must move forward as you are right now, and you have to eagerly and with optimism and faith lean into tomorrow. He shared that we have to endeavor to live the life we've imagined, and I think what he meant by that was, this doesn't just happen. It takes conscious effort. It takes struggle. Endeavor means we have to work at it. And he said that you can imagine your life. That is, you have to have the courage to dream about what it might look like. And finally, he said, if you do these things, you'll find successes that you never anticipated. His words were, in the common hours. And I think that that's what's going to happen for all of you. You are going to experience triumphs and success, and they will appear unexpected. They will appear in common hours. You will locate the extraordinary in the most ordinary moments, whether that means learning from a roommate, a connection you made in the dormitory, that moment of intellectual awakening that happens in a classroom, or perhaps something that happens on this stage as an actor or as an artist or as a singer. And that's all I hope for you. For students, I just hope that you will find a success that you never thought you would locate in these common hours. Now, let me close by introducing a few of the people who will be important in your life. And I think most have been able to gather here. Actually, John, I see John will come down. John Wilson, actually, that's the perfect person to start with because John Wilson is the academic dean. I will welcome you, John. Poor guy. John was probably in his office working on academic programs. So by way of introduction, John Wilson is the academic dean. That is, most of you know him either by mail or call, or you've met him. John is the person who oversees all of the academic programs for students at Taft. I will make this plea with your permission and blessing, John. He has scheduled some 560 students. 99.9% of those students are in the classes they should be in. A few of those will move as a student maybe is not in the right class. Do not call him in the next day or two saying she has to get out of Spanish 2 honors. Okay? It's way too early. We have a nice way of doing this where if a student is not sure they're in the right class, they talk to the teacher, they then talk to John, and in almost all cases, this gets sorted out within the week. Fair to say? Is that?
Very fair.
Okay, good. So John Wilson, the academic dean. Rusty Davis is the assistant headmaster. Rusty is right here. Rusty is, as many of you know. Yeah. It's hard to describe what Rusty does because he does so much. He oversees the school calendar. He runs the school in my absence. He undertakes some of the most difficult and interesting ad hoc committees we run every year. And Rusty is a physics teacher as well and has been here for, I don't want to embarrass you, 40 years? It's a long time. Long time. Let me go through others as well, and I'll just ask them to stand so you know who they are. Carl Carlson and Sarah Sanborn are the 2 deans of students. Where are they? Okay, Carl and Sarah. Carl has been the Dean of Students for 8 years, and Sarah is in her first year. We essentially split the class, the school in 2, and Sarah's focus is on the lower 2 classes. Carl's is on the upper 2, but frankly, they work in such close tandem that both of them function as Deans of Students. They oversee school life. They oversee permissions, things like day permissions, weekend permissions, and obviously they oversee all aspects of rules. A lot of times you'll get a call from one of them, and do not panic. They're simply checking to make sure that the right permissions are on file. Jean Piacenza is the Director of Counseling. Where's Jean? And Jean is a Taft graduate, oversees the counseling office. And so when students are looking for and parents are looking for additional counseling, psychological support and services, you would contact Jean. Lisa Keys, where is Lisa? Lisa. So Lisa is the director of the Martin Health Center, and I know actually a couple of parents asked some questions about issues. So if you have any questions about medication, illness, treatment plans, things like that, please seek out Lisa. Bob Ganung, you met, but I'll just introduce Bob again, who's the school chaplain. And so questions, any questions about worship services, worship in general, religious support groups, whether it's the Jewish Students Alliance, the UCT group, any group like that, or Focus, Bob would be the person you reach. I wanted to introduce Charles Thompson. He is our IT director, and I don't think Charles was in the middle of solving a problem, but I would say if you have an issue with IT, and there's a connectivity issue or something like that, you would reach out to Charles. Let me introduce the class deans and quickly explain what they do. There are, I would say in the beginning weeks of the school, there are a couple of very critical people that you'd want to get to know. The first is the class dean. Every student has a class dean. Each class has 2 deans, and so the class is split in half. The class dean's role is to oversee the entirety of your son or daughter's experience, the academics, the social, the athletics, the extracurricular. That's the person that you can reach out to at any time, and they will, if they haven't seen your son or daughter in a day or two, they'd say, look, I'll get right back in touch with you. But their job is to understand the whole of the experience for your deans, your son or daughter. And so the 2 lower mid-class deans are Bob Campbell and Rachel Ryan. Could they stand? Yep. And the deans of the middle class are Jeremy Clifford and Jen Riley. The deans of the upper middle class are Will Orban and Shannon Guidati. The deans of the senior class, Allison Carlson and Jack Kennerson. And then finally, I'd like to introduce one other role, and that is we have our director of Dean of Multicultural Affairs and the head of our GSS department, who oversees really all of our initiatives in multiculturalism and diversity, is Jamela Lee. Where's Jamela? There we go. There are people behind me who don't like it when I say this, but the breadth of experience standing behind me is extraordinary. I am guessing that there's about 150 years of Taft experience. And I would say use these people as resources, in particular as you start here. Trust them. They will absolutely care for your children. Now, I will close by introducing two student speakers and two really impressive leaders, and I'll leave you just saying, to parents, I know how hard it is to let go. I'm asking you to trust us. You have to leave your child in our care. I know that there will be a lot of you, mothers and fathers alike, whose hearts will tremble when you drive out onto the road. That is entirely healthy in what it is to be a parent. But have faith. Have faith in your children, whose remarkable qualities brought them here. Have faith in the school that will look after them. We know what you've done in giving your son and daughter to us. So welcome to Taft. It's with a great sense of honor and excitement that we begin this year. And I close by introducing really two critical leaders of the school, the head monitors, Will O'Mara and Story Vibrants. I think Will speak first. The tradition of leadership at this school is really extraordinary, and Will and Story are going to do an amazing job. This school, to a great extent, takes its cues and is inspired by seniors, and in particular by the school monitors. And they're going to do a couple things. They're going to welcome you. They're going to introduce the other monitors. And then in the spirit of good leadership, I give the tough task to them. You always want to push the problem onto someone else. These two will close by saying, parents, you've got to leave us. Leave your children with us. We'll take good care of them. So it's with a great sense of honor that I introduce Will and Story.
Hello, I'm Will O'Mara, and I'm a day student in the class of 2012 from Watertown, Connecticut, and I, along with Story V-Brands, am a co-head monitor for the 2011-2012 school year. I would like to start by welcoming all of the new students sitting here in Bingham Auditorium. You are now officially Tafties. Get used to these seats because for the next 4 years, you'll spend from 10:25 to 11 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings listening to guest speakers, announcements about home games and clubs, musical performances, and other school announcements right from these seats. I believe that Bingham represents two major parts of this school: tradition and making memories that will last a lifetime. Built in 1929, Bingham is one of our oldest structures and has been the home of countless theatrical productions, performances, and meetings like this one. Forging memories has been a large part of my Taft career, and many of my fondest memories occurred right in this room. Though my memories would be very different from a boy in the class of 1929, the traditions in places like Bingham connect every Taft student with complete disregard towards the differences in our memories. I would like to take this time to share several memories of mine that truly illustrate the kind of school that Taft is. Exactly a week ago tonight, a friend of mine who had arrived early for volleyball preseason and a friend from Woodbury, Connecticut, met me at Taft to hang out for a bit. Around 9 o'clock, we decided to take a walk up to the fields, and we settled on the turf field many of you saw on your first visit here. Standing on the edge of the turf, with our arms on the fence and our gaze directed down the hill towards main campus, we saw an illuminated, still school. As we just sat there silently, as if not to disturb the picturesque scene below us, one of us just said, "Wow, how lucky are we to call this our school?" To look at each part of it and recall a specific memory that occurred there. Needless to say, the night got pretty sentimental as we reminisced about our first 3 years at Taft and the final year to come. We talked about the best, worst, and most embarrassing times we had together and how each of us had evolved from lower mid-year. I encourage all of you new students to think about how you will evolve and how, I encourage all you new students to think about who you will become at Taft, how you will branch out, take risks, and accomplish things you may never have dreamed of. Though for some, Taft is already outside of your comfort zone, take a step further and try a new sport, join a club, and discover a new passion of yours that is waiting to be unfurled. In closing, one of my best and most influential teachers at Taft approached me during cross-country preseason, and knowing I spent my summer working on an organic vegetable farm, shout out to Waldingfield, had an article in his Yale alumni magazine to show me. One of his classmates, Rowan Claypool, said of his own coworker on a farm, "I'd spend long, hot days digging holes and listening to this guy named Buddy, who was missing most of his teeth. I'd had a tough sophomore year and had arranged a leave of absence, but there was something very healing about watching the cotton grow that summer. What I observed in my life at Yale was very helter-skelter. I was always pushing myself. I was never balanced. The cotton, though, grew just the right amount each week, and it grew in a very steady, organic way, never rushed. Claypool goes on to mention how this summer growing cotton and digging helped him develop and ready himself for another year at Yale. Though your first days, weeks, and maybe months at Taft may be difficult, I urge you all to find your toothless buddy. Find your growing cotton at Taft, or find your growing cotton and find something at Taft that will help you develop into who you want to be. Again, I say welcome to you all, and let's have a fantastic year. On that note, I'd like to welcome Story V. Brands to the stage.
Welcome again. My name is Story V. Brands, and I'd first like to start off to congratulate all of you on making it here to this orientation. I think it'll put you all at ease to know that those of you in this room have already made it farther than I ever did on my first day at Taft. This time, 3 years ago, while my fellow freshmen sat in white plastic folding chairs, I was in the car, headed to St. Mary's Hospital. Just 2 hours into my arrival, doubled over in pain, the lovely Taft nurses decided that my stomach ache was not, in fact, nervous jitters, but appendicitis. I know you weren't expecting that. Now, it turned out not to be appendicitis, and actually, to this day, I can't even really recall what the problem actually was. All I know is that I made it back in time for dinner. So after that story, if there's anyone who still doesn't feel more confident about the success of their first day, then I challenge you to find me afterwards and convince me that your day has been more painful or nerve-wracking than that, because don't think you can do it. However, the point of that story is not to make you pity me, but instead to reassure you that Taft is survivable. After all, I am still standing, and I have my appendix. Thanks not only to the fantastic nurses, but also with the help of an amazing group of teachers, coaches, advisors, and students, will your adjustment to Taft be made that much easier and exciting. Previously, Will spoke to you about the traditions and memories that make Taft a special place, and these aspects are ever important to the time each of you will spend here. However, while Taft rests comfortably in these old traditions, it has also yielded a great deal of positive change, especially in the more recent years and months. The most obvious, perhaps, is the election of 2 co-head monitors, a boy and a girl. This is the first year that the school will be led by not 1, but 2 students, and all of you here will be the first witnesses of the great benefits of this adjustment. Beyond mine and Will's co-election, however, all of you here will also be among the first to be a part of a great many other transformations. The new dining hall, for one, renovated, I think, just 2 years ago, and the extremely tasty food produced by Chef Revon in his kitchen are both fairly new to Taft. Furthermore, in the past year, teachers and students have worked together to resurrect the once-forgotten CHAT program. CHAT stands for Community Health at Taft, and have produced a plan of action to introduce health to Taft students in a whole new light. This very summer, the dorm Mac House has undergone renovations that can be appreciated by all of the girls who will live there together this year. The school student union, known as the JIG, a hub of social activity in the form of ping pong, pool, and bacon, egg, and cheeses, has been filled with comfortable leather couches to sit on while chatting. My personal favorite, however, are the new automatic doors that lead onto the brick pathway. Their size and efficiency hopefully destined to eliminate the somewhat awkward scuffle that occurs every year on Grandparents' and Parents' Day as people try to get in and out. Though these changes are all important and thrilling, they take a backseat to perhaps the most important change of all of you, the new students that Taft will receive this year. Every year, new students like you arrive, and together we begin all over as a new and improved student body to shape the forthcoming school year. This year will be no different. You have all arrived, and you have been fortunate, or unfortunate, enough to hear my speech rather than go to the hospital, and you will all soon begin to know the new and improved Taft as your own. This year, we continue to change and grow and make the school better, and it wouldn't occur without the new students. So, no doubt for the 100th time today, welcome. I'm very glad you all made it, and I hope you're all looking forward to a year at Taft spent with each other, students new and old, and the great many changes that still await. Now, Will, we will now introduce to you our other school monitors. So, guys, stand up when you hear your names.
Kwejo Asamoah Duodu. David Chesbro. Eliza Davis. Allie Ely. AJ Fields. Mark Hawkins. Ellen Cowlins. Caitlin Kennedy. Katie Knowlton, who's not here, but you'll meet her later. So you can still clap. Alex Lewis. Walter Yu. And Will Ziesing. Okay, so parents, I know this is really difficult, but we ask that you say your final goodbyes in a few minutes and leave. I assure you, your children are in great hands.
And to the students, once your parents have left, we ask that you, maybe if you preferably change into athletic clothes, depending, and upper mids, so juniors, you guys are going to meet in Lincoln Lobby. Seniors and PGs are going to go to the choral room, and lower mids and mids are going to meet outside the dining hall to walk up to the gym. And you guys all have now orientation, which is full of fun and awkward games. So if I wouldn't know, I wasn't there, but okay. So one last time: upper mids, Lincoln Lobby; seniors, choral room; lower mids and mids meet outside the dining hall. And any of you can ask someone, and you can get directed to any of those places. And you should all be at those places at 3:45 or sooner.